Hello, my friends. It's another edition of Nic Leobold Live with me, Nic Leobold. And what more can I say? Actually, I'm doing this video in response to Peter Schiff's video a couple of weeks ago defending Wells Fargo. And I guess I'm going to name this video Peter Schiff is Wrong About the Banks and Wells Fargo. Because Peter Schiff came to Wells Fargo's defense and also the CEO's of Wells Fargo's defense, and I really think Peter Schiff, this is the first time I can remember disagreeing with Peter, and I mean, Peter, you're totally off base, because, first of all, I have never been a Wells Fargo customer, I believe, but I have been a customer of many other large, national banks, and without exception, there is such poor service and such disdain and discourtesy and disrespect for customers. And there is even a lot of gross criminality in terms of how they treat their retail customers. And I don't want to get into the specifics about the Wells Fargo controversy going on right now because, that's a particular issue. That's a specific issue, but the fact is, the fact is that national banks and international corporate banks are notorious for criminal activity, and you read every day almost in headlines about what these large banks are doing, about all the conflicts of interest and dishonesty and outright fraud and selling their clients products that are not in their best interest. And I understand that people have to decide what's in their own best interest themselves. But what about when a bank knows that it's not in their best interest and they don't say anything? And what about all the harassment and hassling of their customers that large banks engage in when they're dealing with regular retail customers? Sure, the rich fat cats and elite get black glove treatment, and they get the limousines from the airports, and they get the favorable interest rates for their millions or billions on deposit. And what do the retail customers get? They get obnoxious, purposely harassing voice systems when they call in for customer service. When they actually get to speak to a representative, the representative usually gives them the runaround, denies any responsibility, defends outrageous, unjust fees that are not earned because the bank is not servicing the customer with the benefits they promise. And not to mention that if you start arguing with banks when they do something wrong, they'll come down on you even harder a lot of times and engage in outright fraud, destruction of evidence, actual really serious crimes. So, Peter, I don't know what you're smoking about the banks. Yeah, you could say there's competition, but is there really competition? Isn't it time you also added to your comments on banking that it's actually not competition, but because we don't have free market banking, we don't have a free market currency market. The currency is controlled by the central banks. The interest rates are manipulated by the central banks. Banks get free money, practically, and they lend it out for high multiple rates of interest. So banking is like running a casino, So Peter, let's be honest. It's fine if you want to defend free market banking, which we don't have. Yeah, if you want to advocate for free market banking, I'm in. I'm all in. I want that desperately. But let's not forget the manipulation of commodity markets and commodities by these same banks. Let's not forget money laundering, which is I'll admit, money laundering is a respectable trade, but when you're in league with the government and you're in league with the state, well, money laundering is pretty sleazy. I mean, if they were honest money launderers and they were doing it to evade taxes and evade aiding and abetting the state, then I would say that it would be respectable money laundering. But instead, they're money laundering while they're taking free money from the government and the Central Reserve Bank, and they're screwing their little guy customers. So, Peter, you should do a video about free market banking, about free market finance, and you should admit how utterly abusive and criminal most banks are. And I have been dealing with discourtesy, dishonesty, hostility, unethical behavior, and so many transgressions and outrages with banking since I was a teenager, since I was banking at my local savings and loan bank, which had some very good people, but also had the same problems endemic in most of the industry, or some of the same problems, and it also had some bad people. And it also had some bad practices eventually before it was sold off and absorbed by by a bigger bank and then a national bank. But anyway, Peter, it's all well and good to argue about bank employees being able to earn commissions and salesmen being able to earn commissions. But come on, let's be honest. You have got to admit that Wells Fargo is probably engaged in numerous violations of ethics and general law principles. So when you say stop criticizing Wells Fargo, well, you know what? The people criticizing Wells Fargo, they have a general point about banks. And banking is born out of iniquity, or however the quote goes. I mean, and that's absolutely true in a top-down, centralized, authoritarian government like we have now all over the world. So, Peter, I think you're off base with Wells Fargo because I think they deserve a slap in the face. And no matter how they get it, they deserve a slap in the face, probably. I mean, I don't know the particulars of Wells Fargo because, I recently applied for a Wells Fargo credit card because they were being attacked. So I thought, hey, this is a good opportunity to apply for a Wells Fargo credit card. But, Peter, you seem to be under some illusions that Wells Fargo is has a sterling character, which I would find probably to be unlikely. So it's time to be honest. It's time to admit that we need a free market banking system. We need a free market currency system, a laissez-faire banking and currency system. We need to stop the manipulation in gold and silver and commodities being directed by these large national and international banks. And we need to be very honest about how a lot of banks and a lot of brokerages utterly screw their retail customers and their small customers. It's an absolute outrage. And Peter, as a broker owner and as an owner of an investment firm and a gold and silver firm, I've never dealt with your firm, but you as a responsible party in the financial industry, you have to be honest about how a lot of your fellow institutions, both brokers, banks, etc., investment banks, retail banks, are screwing their small retail customers, their middle-class customers, their poor customers, their working-class customers. You have to be honest about it because it's an absolute outrage and scandal. And I don't think Wells Fargo needs you to defend them. I think you need to be attacking banks and financial institutions and investment firms and brokerages, you need to be exposing them for their monopolistic, cartelized, mercantilist, unethical, unlawful, criminal behavior against people. And you need to stop defending Wells Fargo, because Wells Fargo doesn't need to be defended, and they're probably guilty of all the things I mentioned. And probably more. There's probably a lot of stuff I don't know about that's going on, but I know enough. And I'm fighting my own legal battles against the banks and the brokerages. and that is an ongoing struggle and challenge, which I am going to continue. So I know all about the transgression and criminality of the banks, brokerages, and financial and investment houses. And Peter, you're like I said, stop supporting Wells Fargo, stop defending Wells Fargo, start talking about free market banking, free market currency system. That's what we need. Because the current banking system is a bunch of utter criminals. It's a criminal cartel at the behest of the state, and it's an utter outrage. And it goes right into everything you always talk about central banking and regulations and taxes. It's all interwoven with the scandal, the banking scandal, which is an ongoing scandal for the past 100 whatever years. It's an ongoing scandal. That's what you need to be focusing on. Okay, thank you, Peter. Thank you, guys. I will try to get a new video in, but I am getting over a cold. But I will try to get more videos in. And thank you for watching. And please like this video and share it or whatever. Or send me an email or post a comment, because I leave the comments section open because I love comments and I love free expression and I love free speech. And I almost never edit. I almost never edit or take down anything because I don't believe in that. So have a great week. Have a great weekend. And thank you very much. This is Nic Leobold Live signing off until next time. Thank you.